The R-Series includes options for advanced monitoring of pulse oximetry, non-invasive blood pressure, and end-tidal CO2. With the non-invasive blood pressure NIBP option, measurements can be obtained in monitor, pacer, or defib modes. To take safe and accurate blood pressure measurements, select the proper size cuff. Check to make sure the patient blood pressure cuff and hose is connected to the R-Series through the NIBP connector on the rear panel. Press the NIBP button on the front panel of the R-Series to initiate and terminate measurements. The blood pressure information, including the patient's systolic, diastolic, and mean blood pressure values, is shown in the NIBP display area on the left side of the screen. The pulse oximetry option can be used in monitor, pacer, or defib modes. Each sensor is designed for application to a specific anatomical site on patients within a certain weight range. To ensure optimal performance, use an appropriate sensor, apply it as described in the sensor's directions for use, and always observe all warnings and cautions. Check to make sure the pulse oximetry patient cable is connected to the pulse oximetry connector on the rear panel of the R-Series. Note, there may be a plastic dust cover that is physically attached to the rear panel that covers the exposed pulse oximetry connector. Remove the cover and connect the patient cable. The R-Series pulse oximeter continuously and non-invasively measures the oxygen saturation of arteriolar hemoglobin at a peripheral site such as the finger or toe. The R-Series pulse oximeter displays the following information in the SpO2 area: SpO2 value, SpO2 alarm indicator, and signal strength indicator. The display optionally includes the normalized plethysmogram below the ECG trace. The ZOLL R-Series also includes an option for continuous non-invasive monitoring of end-tidal CO2 and the respiration rate. R-Series, equipped with software revision 12.75 or higher, support two end-tidal CO2 monitoring options for the continuous measurement of respiratory carbon dioxide and respiration rate, mainstream or side stream. Both of these options use the same connector on the R-Series. The first method uses the Capnostat 5 mainstream CO2 sensor attached to an airway adapter that connects to an endotracheal tube, mask, or disposable mouthpiece. The second method uses the low-flow CO2 module to monitor both non-intubated and intubated patients using specially designed sampling cannulas and airway adapters. The R-Series end-tidal CO2 option is designed to monitor adult, pediatric, and neonatal patients. There are several steps involved with mainstream end-tidal CO2 setup. To attach the Capnostat 5 CO2 sensor cable, plug the cable's connector into the yellow CO2 connector at the back of the R-Series by matching the key on the cable to the key on the connector. Select an airway adapter and attach. Align the arrow on the bottom of the airway adapter with the arrow on the bottom of the sensor. Press the sensor and airway adapter together until they click. Turn the mode selector on the R-Series to Monitor and wait for the airway adapter and sensor to warm up. The device will display the CO2 warm-up message for approximately 1 minute while the sensor and adapter warm to operating temperature. The message disappears when the sensor is ready to use. Next, zero the adapter. Adapter zeroing compensates for the optical differences between airway adapters and should be performed at certain times. In order to obtain accurate readings, zeroing is recommended after switching between single-patient use and reusable airway adapters. It is also recommended for the first time a Capnostat 5 CO2 sensor is connected to the R-Series. Place the sensor with the adapter installed away from all sources of CO2, including the patient's and your own exhaled breath and ventilator exhaust valves. Press the param soft key, then the CO2 soft key. Press the 0 soft key. The unit zeroes the adapter and displays the zeroing CO2 adapter message for 15 to 20 seconds. The unit displays the message "Zero done" upon completion of the zeroing. Attach the airway adapter to the airway circuit. There are several steps involved with side-stream end-tidal CO2 setup. To attach the low-flow module cable, plug the cable into the yellow CO2 connector at the back of the R-Series by matching the key on the cable to the key on the connector. Select an airway adapter kit based on the patient's size, ET tube diameter, and monitoring situation, or select a side-stream cannula based on the patient's size and monitoring situation. Insert the low-flow sample cell into the low-flow sample cell receptacle and ensure that it clicks into place. Turn the mode selector on the R-Series to Monitor and wait for the airway adapter and sensor to warm up. The device will display the CO2 warm-up message for approximately 1 minute while the sensor and adapter warm to operating temperature. The message disappears when the sensor is ready to use. While zeroing is recommended the first time a low-flow module is connected to the R-Series, it is only absolutely necessary when the message "Zero CO2 module" is displayed. Place the airway adapter assembly at the proximal end of the airway circuit between the elbow and the ventilator circuit, or place the nasal or nasal-oral cannula on the patient. Check that connections have been made correctly by verifying the display, which shows EtCO2 as a numerical value in millimeters of mercury, mmHg, percent, or kilopascals, kPa. In addition, a capnogram waveform can be displayed.